Hello, Elissa. It's great to see you.
Well, hi, Krystle. It's lovely to see you as well. Be better if it was in person, but that's
Yes,
okay.
I agree. I agree. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
You're welcome.
I wanted to start by asking you to tell us, who is Elissa O'Keefe for anyone who doesn't know you?
Oh, God bless you. Well, I'm going to be asked that. I'm going to ask the same as you after this,
Oh,
Krystle,
okay.
because you are the voice in the face behind Bravura that other people don't see. So I'll tell you a little bit about me, but what I think would be lovely too is for the students to know a little bit about you. How does that sound?
Okay, thank you. Big shoes to fill.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, that's where we'll start. Because there's only a small team at Bravura, isn't it? Isn't there?
True.
So it's nice to get to know who's who, and you and I are the two key people. So look, we thought we would just mix up our blogs a little bit by doing a video for a change, so you didn't have to read and you could sit and listen. And we'll probably do this as a podcast as well. So if you can't sit and watch it, you can listen to it. So that's pretty cool. Look, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Elissa O'Keefe. I'm a registered nurse and nurse practitioner, and I'm also an adjunct associate professor at the University of Canberra. I've got a really strong background in nursing and in clinical governance and research and education. So I've been involved in the skin industry pretty much full on for just over probably 11 or 12 years now, but have had a passion for skin since I was 10 years old and got my first pimple. So always from 10 years old, I've been searching for the perfect skincare. I've done any number of treatments for laser, for scarring, etc. So you name it, I've done it. And yeah, just continue to be passionate about this whole industry, particularly skin. That's my thing. Skin's my thing.
Skin's your thing. Good. Good one.
Yes.
Thank you, Elissa. Thank you.
Now tell us about you, Krystle.
Okay, so my name is Krystle. For any students who have ever emailed Bravura or become a student of Bravura, they've spoken with me either on the phone or via email. I studied as a beauty therapist and got my diploma 21 years ago. So like you, Elissa, I've had a thing for skin for many, many years. I started working with Bravura nearly 3 years ago. I am passionate about the administration side of things, how things run, that they run smoothly, and getting students from A to B. And nothing makes me happier than when a student has an inquiry thinking, oh, can I come into the industry? Is this something that I can do? And finding the solution for them. That's what makes me really, really happy. So I love working with Bravura. I've told you, Elissa, multiple times, this is where I will be till I retire. And like you mentioned earlier, we have a really small team, but a mighty team.
We do. And I guess that's something that you know, we're not Australia's most trusted laser college for nothing. One of those things is the stability of our staff, and you're going to get that consistency of care whenever you pick up the phone or send us an email. So yeah, we'll totally look after you. And I'm happy to say publicly, Krystle, I imagine you will be with us until we both retire. So let's keep going.
That's a nice feeling to have. That's a really
nice
nice and secure feeling to have. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Elissa.
No worries.
Thank you, Bravura. So for anybody listening or watching who doesn't actually know what Bravura is, can you please explain to us, what is Bravura?
Sure. So Bravura started out as a laser safety provider, education provider. And it became very clear at the beginning that what was available at the time, so we're talking about 6 years ago now, what was available at the time was not terribly rigorous, and mostly was being delivered by beauty therapy schools. So there was a real gap in the market for rigorous evidence-based laser and IPL education for doctors and nurses. So that was the genesis of our business. Was in fact, our first customers were the Australasian College of Cosmetic Medicine and Surgery. And they totally backed us in from the beginning because they could recognise that there was something missing in the landscape. So we've filled that really beautifully now, but we've expanded a little bit beyond laser and IPL as well, because we've realised that we're in such an industry using complex devices, and things are changing all the time, that we cover off cryolipolysis, things like that. So we've gradually developed the stable of courses that we've got. We also knew that a lot of the other models of teaching were quite restrictive, particularly in having to attend class. And we knew that attending class, really does suit some people, but there's so much information to take in that I found if you're sitting in a classroom for hours or days or weeks, you're just not taking it all in. So something that I really loved about the online model was that ability to come and go as you please. Right. And so what we do with our courses is we don't lock you out after a certain amount of time. You've got the leisure to be able to come and revisit those subjects whenever you like. And the only time frame that really has is the one that's in your head and the one that's being controlled by circumstances of your life. So that's what I really loved about this. And it was the first school in this space really to embrace and own online learning. And as it's happened, moving into a pandemic and people working from home and living so differently, it's really come into its own, the way that we deliver. So we just get beautiful feedback from the students about literally the ability to do it when the children have gone to bed at night, or some downtime at work, whether it's a quiet day or a quiet month. So there's a huge flexibility. You're not locked into terms or start dates or anything like that. And so what's evolved is a really nice model of Laser and IPL training.
And I just want to touch on what you said. You're able to do it online and you don't have to sit in the classroom for hours and hours. Some of our students are, let's say, single mums who already work full-time. They don't have the ability to go and sit in a classroom. So the fact that we can offer it online for them in their pajamas, if that's what they want, makes it so much more accessible and convenient.
Absolutely.
And a lot of students ask, is there face-to-face, or why isn't there face-to-face? There's just no need for it, really. And you've kind of touched on that already.
I did touch on that, and it's such an interesting comment, Krystle, because I think 9 times out of 10 the inquiries we get is the question is, but what about practical? And when I first started the business and I was concentrating online, I actually thought not offering huge amounts of practical was going to be a disadvantage. But it's very interesting, because what happens is people fall into 3 discrete categories with this, don't they? There's people who really do need practical training. And so for those ones that haven't got access to it in their own workplace, or they haven't bought their machines, they're the ones we send up to see Janelle up in Lismore, and they spend significant amounts of time with her. She is an amazing clinical trainer. She's got 25 years experience in the business. So for those that really need it, she's our go-to girl. And our next vlog, you're going to interview her, aren't you?
Yes, I can't wait.
Yes, so you'll get to know Janelle as well. The second group are those people that are already some working in a workplace that have got equipment. So they think that they need to have some third-party practical, but they actually don't. So they're able to be mentored within their workplace with a senior person. And actually that's the model for some of the states and territories. So Western Australia and Queensland have a mentoring type program. So a lot of people will find that in the workplace. The third group is people that are setting up their own business. And what we find with them is once they've done the training with us, and usually the training when you're beginning is doing the beginners and the advanced course, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But what we find is by the time they've done the beginners and advanced, their knowledge is so great that they get their supplier that they've bought their machine from. The supplier comes in to do the practical, and they're already sort of so switched on mentally about what they're doing, not just with the machine and the system, but understanding how the skin interacts with it, how to do different treatments, that the suppliers have a very easy job. So we work with all of the major laser companies, and the consistent feedback from them is that the students that have done the beginners and advanced course before they do the clinical training through the laser trainer, they're miles ahead, and their learning is exponential because they're already starting ahead of the game.
Agreed. It all starts to just make sense once that laser machine is plugged in and you're ready to start your practical. It's like, that's where the light physics module comes in. That's where the Skin Fitzpatrick scale comes in. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so when I developed the courses, what I wanted to be able to do is, we often say we're Switzerland when it comes to machines, because what I would like for any students that come in and do our course is that no matter what machine you're looking at, you're going to totally understand it. So everything from plugging it in and switching it on, then looking at the console and understanding what wavelengths, how much energy, what your repetition rate is, all of those ingredients that are a recipe for great laser practice, they can understand it, because the principles are the same from laser to laser to laser. And a good laser company will, if you're buying your laser or your IPL new, a good laser company will always build in a beautiful practical and orientation component into your sale. So that's something that's really important to look for before you part with your tens of thousands of dollars for a machine.
Yeah, really great point. Yeah, what's included in my sales price in terms of training, and then after sale as well, a month down the track, 3 months down the track, a year down, because we all have had a client that's just that tricky one, you know, that we've treated many times, whether it be melasma or whatever the condition may be.
The condition,
and you know your setting, you know what you're doing, but you're not getting anywhere. You want to know that you have a supplier that you can reach out to and say, hey, here's some photos of my client, help me a little bit more. Not a supplier that sells you the machine and is never to be found again.
That's right. And that's a very interesting point too, if something goes wrong with your machine. Because if you're with a good supplier and your machine breaks down, and look, you know, we're recording this, Krystle, on the 16th of December. We are all in our most busy time, heads down, tails up, leading into the holiday season. If your machine goes down and you've got, you know, 16 patients per room booked from now until, you know, next Friday,
great problem.
You don't want to. Oh, great problem, but not when your machine's not working. So if you're with a good supplier, they're going to either fix or replace your machine in the shortest possible time. So you really do get get your money's worth, don't you, when you buy a good machine?
1000%, yeah. And another thing I always say to students, never look on eBay and never look on Alibaba for a laser machine. You can buy, you know, LED light strips, fine, no problem, but never ever a laser machine off one of those sites, because you need your supplier available to you. And
haven't we had some interesting students around that as well? So we've had stories like, I bought something off eBay, but it hasn't got a manual or any protocol, so I don't know how to use it, so useless. And then we had a student recently who'd bought a machine off a Chinese company, and all of the instructions were in Chinese, and the clinical teaching that they were providing was done by Zoom, and the language barrier was a big issue as well. The other pitfall that I see is if you're making a therapeutic claim about your treatment. So for those of you out there that are medical and nursing practitioners, if you're making a therapeutic claim about things like reducing acne, curing rosacea, or reducing scarring, if your machine isn't TGA listed and doesn't have the clinical papers into the TGA that support your claims, you're actually working outside of the legislation. So you need to be very careful about what machines you're using. Hair removal doesn't matter. You're not making a therapeutic claim. It's purely cosmetic. But once we step into skin, we need to be very careful about the machines we're using. Also, our insurers, they want to know that we're using good quality machinery, because if you're not, they won't insure you. So you can't operate. So your insurer is very diligent about your machine as well.
Yeah, thank you for that nugget of information. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Now, you've mentioned the industries, medical and cosmetic. Can you tell us a little bit more about who does Bravura cater to? Yes, those industries, but who can come in and be our students?
Sure. So our business is essentially split into two streams. We have a surgical stream, so a hospital stream, and a cosmetic stream. So the people that we usually see in hospitals are generally the nurses and the surgeons, because they're the ones that are in the rooms using the machines. So under the regulations that were published in 2018, which are our newest ones for Australia and New Zealand, everybody who is in the room where a laser is being used needs to have done some form of laser safety training. So it's very common for us to see vast volumes of people from hospitals. The other stream is cosmetic. Now, the cosmetic group is really quite eclectic, isn't it, Krystle?
Yes,
We see
yes.
people, everything from, say, a plastic surgeon who's got 9 clinics,
Yes.
right through to, say, a hairdresser in Western Sydney who'd like to start doing laser hair removal.
Yes.
And honestly, everything in between.
Yes.
So you don't actually need anything special to come and do a course with us.
Yes,
We're really happy to, which is great. We're really happy to have you and to help you. There's a couple of little tricks around that, depending on what state or territory you live in, though. So you need to be a little bit careful. If you're in Western Australia or Queensland, can I strongly recommend that you reach out to us before you do anything, so we can help you navigate that system. For example, in Western Australia, you're not allowed to do laser tattoo removal if you're not a doctor or a registered nurse, for example. So what we don't want you to do is to be investing vast amounts of your time and energy and your money in doing a course that might actually not suit you. And we can also help you navigate some of the paperwork, how to get your logbook, how to get your possession and acquisition licenses, for example. So there's a few nuances, but generally speaking, anybody can do laser. You don't need to have a minimum qualification, which I think is great because it opens up employment opportunities for everybody. So if you've got a passion for this, the chances are you can actually take this on as a career.
Yeah. And so anyone can enter, almost anyone, depending on the state. When they finish with Bravura, what qualifications do they finish with?
Yep. So depending on which course, but generally speaking, the qualification you'll come out with is a laser safety certificate. That laser safety certificate meets the Australian and New Zealand standards. It's also recognised by the radiation health departments in Queensland, Tasmania and Western Australia, because they're the only 3 that have legislation. But one of the fundamental reasons why you would have a laser safety certificate is it helps you with your insurance. So it's one of the first things that the insurance agents will ask you about is your laser safety certificate. So you automatically, your risk is decreased. So that's really important for your insurance.
Would you agree the laser safety certificate, when moving into this industry, is non-negotiable?
Absolutely non-negotiable if you're using a laser. It's mandatory under the standards, but interestingly, the standards aren't written into legislation, which means legally you don't have to have one, but ethically, morally and professionally, every single person who uses a laser or is in a room where a laser is being used should have a laser safety certificate. Yes.
And
that's a common misconception, that if it's not written into legislation that you don't need one, but you actually do. So 100% of people using lasers or who are working around lasers should have a laser safety certificate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like your driver's license to drive a car, in a sense. You need to learn about the vehicle before you get in to drive it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're not on the road unless you've done your theory and then you've done some practical. So and look, I've just written a blog that was coming out next week or the week after. It's called Who's Responsible for Your Clinical Practice? And at the end of the day, 100% you're responsible for your own clinical practice. So if you're using a laser or an IPL and you haven't done some education, well, full beware, you are not meeting the standards, and you won't, if something goes wrong, the lawyers and the insurers will not look upon you kindly. So it's insurance in itself, having a laser safety certificate, because it's a little bit like, if you can think of, the analogy of driving, but if you think of another analogy around standards. So when we have a house built and we put glass around the shower recess, we know it's a special kind of glass. It's not the type that breaks into big shards and can be dangerous in the shower, because the chances of slipping over are higher in a bathroom. So it's exactly the same with laser. When you're meeting the standards, you're actually mitigating risk. It's a workplace health and safety issue. It's no different to washing your hands, wearing gloves, preventing a needle stick injury, managing, preventing fire, cross-infection. It's exactly the same. It's in that workplace health and safety bucket.
Great analogy. I like that one. Elissa, could you please explain, in your opinion, professionally, in both industries, cosmetic or medical, should our students be refreshing their laser safety certificates after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? If they're in the industry and they're working every day, do you think a refresher is necessary?
I think that's a great question, and we get asked that all the time, don't we?
Yeah,
all the time. So first and foremost, if you haven't done a course since 2018, when the new standards came out, you're due.
Okay.
And then beyond that, what we see happening in the industry is that people are refreshing every 2 years. Every year just seems to be a little bit too much. You know, it's not CPR. So every 2 years seems to work in really nicely.
Okay, yeah, for all the industries.
For all industries.
Yeah.
Some of the hospitals will do it annually, though. They will do it annually as part of their mandatory update. And that's fine. You know, that's an internal policy. But the overall whole landscape is probably every 2 years. Yep.
Okay. And now I wanted to ask you to share with us, behind Elissa and beside from Bravura, what else do you offer? Elissa, you have so many talents. Talk to us.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a really good granny. I'm a brand new granny of nearly a year, so I've got good grandmothering skills to offer. But you know, jokes aside, one of the initiatives that we've had developed this year, I've done it in collaboration with a woman who owns a company called Sane Social Media. Her name's Kate Skolnick, and honestly, she does keep you sane with your social media. But she and I have developed an initiative called Bravura Beauties. So this is a subscription model, and what it is we've got a group of business owners, clinic owners, salon owners who are supporting and growing one another. So we get together every second week, and we do a live session. So our last live session, because we're in the lead up to Christmas, was sharing our successes and having just a little glass of something that we like. Nice. But we've talked about things this year like how to decide whether we're going to see people who are vaccinated or unvaccinated, for example. We've talked about how difficult it can be when you get, you know, in day to day, we get lots of compliments from our patients, but we talked about the emotional toll of when you get a complaint or you have a bad review or someone's trolling you. We've talked about managing that. We've covered a whole plethora of topics actually, and it's a really energized, quite engaged group. So if there's anybody out there who's running their own business and feeling a little bit isolated, or would like some mentoring, or what's a little bit of advice from their peers, so we have an active Facebook group as well attached to that. So if you needed to ask a question about, you know, what machines are people using, or I've got a case and can someone, you know, Zoom with me and discuss the case, it's an absolutely amazing initiative. So I can strongly recommend, if you haven't looked at the Bravura Beauties already, please do. The other thing that I've been doing, and I launched it in October 2019, is a medical grade skincare brand called Science Skincare, which I've been kind of quiet about, but I've been pottering about with it in the background for a while now. Quite excited because we've just started to move into Singapore as well as Australia. So if you're a person who has a clinic and is looking for a medical grade skincare line, I'd love to talk to you about that. What's in store for next year? Well, that's a secret, and we're having a planning meeting in February, aren't we, Krystle? When
can't wait.
When you're in Canberra with me. So we'll have some fun and interesting things starting up next year. One of the things that you'll see next year is fully refreshed beginners and advanced courses. It'll be much easier to navigate, much more clear illustrations. The narration will be on point, and it will be completely and utterly compliant with not only the new Australia, New Zealand standards, but the international standards. So regardless of where you are in the world, our new revamped courses will be right up your alley. Before we start to wrap up, which we probably will in a sec, Chris, I just want to explain the difference between the beginners and the advanced course as well.
Beautiful, yes.
Because don't you think? Because they go hand in hand, and if someone's brand new to the industry, you're crazy to do one without the other, right?
Yeah, and sometimes students think the advanced includes everything, so they just want to do that one. So
They just want to do the advanced.
Explain. Yeah,
I'll explain it. So the beginners one is the fundamentals of how lasers and IPL work. So it starts with the science of light, and please don't get upset about light physics, because we keep it really simple and very practical. I'm a nurse, I'm a clinician. I teach you in a way that makes sense when you're there in front of a machine and in front of your patient.
Yeah.
We talk about different systems. So what's the difference between a laser and IPL? What do they have in common? What are all the different lasers? So as I said earlier, regardless of which laser you're standing in front of, you're going to be able to understand how it works. And I can literally go to any workplace now, switch on a machine, and I know what to do.
Yeah.
So it covers systems, it covers regulation. So it covers it from a global perspective, and for the Australian course, we'll drill down into the states and territories. It talks about safety. It delves really deeply into safety, because once you understand the risks associated with laser and IPL, particularly with eye injury, and we've got some very graphic illustrations in there around eye injury, but once you really understand the risks, you know how to mitigate them, and it gives you a very healthy respect towards laser. You will never be a person that puts the laser or the IPL onto the skin and turns away and closes your eyes. You will forever be a person who has the correct laser safety eyewear on. So that one also has in it a whole stack of resources, templates, things to help you with your business. And with your career. The second one, which is my personal favorite course out of the whole lot, is the advanced course, because it's the absolute nuts and bolts of treating real people. So it steps you through how to do hair removal, how to do tattoo removal, rejuvenation, resurfacing, photodynamic therapy, pigmentation, and vascular. And it goes through how the machines work, what you should be expecting from the skin, how to prepare your patient, how to manage them while you're doing treatments, how to do a post-care follow-up and care as well, how to prevent adverse outcomes, how to spot adverse outcomes. And it goes quite in depth into things around legal practice, consent, preventing burns, and understanding the complex landscape that we're working in. So if you're a person that's brand new to the industry, put the beginners and the advanced together, and there is a discount code for that one as well. And I can't remember it. I want to say Cosmetic Plus.
Yes.
Is it Cosmetic? Oh, there you go.
When you scroll down on the page, people scroll down on our website to find.
Scroll down on the page. It's Cosmetic Plus. So if you enroll for both of those at the same time, that will give you a 10% discount. So it translates into quite a significant saving for you. And remember too, if you're already in a similar environment to cosmetic medicine, or in the 12 months after you do your course, you can actually tax deduct your courses. So they're part of your professional development. So you can tax deduct your courses, check with your accountant. The other thing is, for every hour that you do with us, you will get the equivalent of 1 hour or 1 point of CPD. So for those of you that are registered health professionals, you can use it for your portfolio. So you get a lot of bang for your buck with the courses, that's for sure.
I agree. Oh, Elissa, thank you so much for your time. It was so wonderful to see you and chat to you.
Thanks, Krystle.
Is there anything else you would like to say to the students before we wrap up?
Yes, just we've been in business now for 6 years, and we just consistently keep getting beautiful feedback from you all. So for anyone who's given us a review or some stars or made a comment, I just want to really thank you for the feedback, because it makes a huge difference, and it keeps our hearts going, doesn't it, Krystle, hearing back from the students?
We really see each one of them personally. It's not, going into the cyber world just onto the internet. They actually come to us and they mean a lot.
Real people, they absolutely are. And having said that, we are really open to having, some to and fro by email if you want to. Happy to have a conversation with you anytime, all day, every day. So before we wrap up, our 1300 number is 1300 001 808. And Krystle's email is hello@bravura.edu.au. anything that Krystle can't manage, which is almost nothing, she forwards on to me. So yeah, we're here for you. We would love to have you on board. And yeah, if you've got any questions, reach out to us. Otherwise, we'll see you on the flip side.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Elissa.
You're welcome. See ya.
Bye now. See ya. Bye.